So we are on to our next step in our smock along, and we have finished smocking the rows that we needed to smock for the size that we are doing, and this is my piece. And then we're going to take it over to our ironing board, and we are going to stretch it to what it needs to be for the final blocking. And I smock pretty tightly, and so I had to stretch mine out, and I stretched it a little too much and then had to pull the threads. To pull it out or to tighten it up, when you leave a little bit longer tail like I do, I think it's easier because I can just pull that thread and I can tighten that up. If you tied them off like this, you might have already blocked it ahead of time, and so you might not be too far off once you finish your smocking. Now, when I smock, I really handle the fabric. I've got it rolled in my hand and stuff like that, and so that's just fine. I know some were a little bit worried that their pleats were not very uniform. You had some parts that were stretched out and some parts that weren't. That's fine, because once you finish, this is where you get it all to look uniform. And so once you get it stretched out to what you need it to be, you just adjust the gathers so everything looks perfect. So you don't have some areas that are tighter and some areas that are more spread apart. Now you may have noticed I've already marked my lines. I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I printed off my bodice piece. I'm doing a size 7. So I printed that off and I cut it out, lay it on top, marked my lines, and I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and stitch on these lines. But before I do that, I didn't show this step, but I have sprayed it really well. So once I got it all the way I wanted it to be, stretched out and the pleats adjusted so that it's the same across, then I sprayed it really well and let it dry. That's your final blocking. And now my armholes are marked, and I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and stitch on those lines before I cut them out, because you do not want to lose your pleating threads once you cut. That would not make you very happy after you've spent many hours smocking it. So let me go take that to the sewing machine and stitch, and then cut those armholes out, and we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, I have stitched around my armholes here, just inside of that line that I marked, and then I cut them out. So they are already cut out. I still have not pulled my pleating threads out. I added some buttons just to make this a little bit fun. I've already made a fancy dress, for her graduation with this pattern, so I thought this one I would do a little bit more casual. The other things that I did is I attached my back bodice piece, right sides together. You do not need to finish your edges. You're going to be lining this. So I attached that on the sides. So the front bodice is pretty much done. We still have not pulled pleating threads yet. The last thing that you can do, and this is totally optional, is to put some piping around the edge. So you can start up here on this top edge and then go all the way around and then up to the top. Now when you add the piping, remember your raw edge is next to the garment's raw edge, and your piping is on the inside, and you're going to stitch real close to that piping. Then you can turn it to the inside and you'll see a nice edge. You don't have to do that. You can just add your lining later. We're going to add straps first, but I've done the same thing with my lining. I cut out my center bodice piece, which matches my smocked piece, and then I have my back pieces attached on either side. So if you're not adding piping, you're going to first attach a strap here and a strap here. Look at the pattern that I upload for you to find out the dimensions and how to stitch those together and how to attach them. You're going to attach one side here, you're going to loop it around, you're going to attach the other side here. So it's going to make a loop. And then when you add your lining, you're going to go right sides together. Let me flip that around. And you're going to stitch it like this. And that loop is there, but you're going to pull it to the inside so it stays out of your way. So I know it looks kind of weird, but and it's going to be kind of squished up in here because that loop's got to come around this way, so you can pull it out afterwards. But you're going to stitch, you're going to start here, go across the top, go around the armhole, go across the top here, go around the armhole, and then across the top there. And this bottom edge is all left open. So then when you flip it, that strap will be there. You can pull that up the way it should be, and then we can pull the pleating threads. I wait until construction is done because I had a time one time when I was anxious and I pulled the pleating threads too early, and then my smocking all stretched out and it was unwearable. So I kept it because it was one of my first smocking. I think it was the very first thing I ever smocked. So I wanted to, you know, keep it, but she never wore it. So then I just clip the pleating threads real close to the seam and just pull them out with tweezers, and then you're going to see that puffing effect. So I'm going to put the straps on here and then stitch that lining on top and flip it right side so that, because I don't think you probably need me to take a video of all of that. That's in the pattern and there's pictures to help you. And then once I get it all finished, I will do one more video to show when you pull those pleating threads out and then the puffing that shows up. And at that point, your smocking isn't going anywhere because it's been stitched on all of the sides to hold it. And then the final thing is just to attach the skirt. And I probably won't do a video of that either because that's also in the pattern for you. So we're getting really close to the end. I'm going to stop the video here and let you do what I've done, stitch and cut out, attach the back bodice pieces, do the same thing with the lining so it's ready to go. Whether you add piping, that's totally up to you. We're going to add the straps and stitch it all together, and we are just about done. I changed my mind. I'm going to show you how to attach the straps because it is a little bit tricky. I've got my piping on here, and I clipped the corners. I also wanted to mention one other thing about piping. The nice thing about your holding rows is that it holds the pleats in there nice and tight and gives you a line to follow for your piping. I added piping actually above and below, and there's an awesome product, Wonder Tape, that you can use also. You can stick it's a double-sided tape used for fabric, and you can stick it down right on top of that holding row and then put your piping on top and it won't go anywhere. For this design, see with the points of the diamonds, it doesn't matter as much, but a lot of smocking designs will have you do a cable stitch right along the top. And one of my pet peeves is when people put piping, and I've done it before too, before I knew about Wonder Tape, is they put their piping on and they don't follow that line exactly. So then when they flip it, you know, the right way, you've got your cable stitch that goes down and up and down and up, and it doesn't follow that line exactly. So I wanted to mention that too. This design, like I said, it doesn't matter as much, but if you are doing more smocking in the future, it is really important. Okay, I've got my straps and I've got them attached to the front and the back, but I want to show you just because my thread, sorry. Alright, so at first I did right sides together here. Now, I have to flip this out so I know what I'm doing. So I put it like this when I have it in front of me to realize which is the right side, to also stitch the right side to this side. So it's got a little twist in it when you attach it on this side. Does that make sense? So you've attached it here, right side. You've attached it here, right side. It does have just a little bit of a twist. Like I said, I just lay it out in front of me, make sure it's going to look right when it's done. That way I don't have to think about it too much. So I've got the straps attached on both sides, and now it's time for me to stitch my lining. Now when I stitch my lining, I'm going to pull the strap down out of the way, and then I'm going to stitch all along here. This part is very weird to do because your strap is tighter and it's going to be pulling, but your lining matches the outer fabric exactly. So you're just going to have to maneuver it a little bit to get it there. Also, when you stitch, stitch from the other side so that you can follow, make sure that you can see your line where you attach the piping so that you know, you catch everything that you need to catch and follow it along to the smocking. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the lining, and then I will show you the finished. Okay, I have my bodice constructed now. I have the lining on, and I trimmed the seam allowances, turned the lining to the inside, and top stitched along that piping. And the last thing that we'll have to do is just add the buttons on the back. Now it's time that you can remove your pleating threads. So you're going to remove them even where you have smocked, but I'm going to pull out the ones in the middle first so you can see. I'm going to try and do this one-handed here. You just clip them real close to the seam allowance, pull them out with your fingers or with tweezers. So you want to pull out all those threads. Alright, and then I pulled those out. You can see it starts to puff a little bit. And if you look at the up-close pictures of the graduation dress I did for Ellie that's all in white, you can see it a little bit even easier, I think, on that one. So you just keep pulling the threads. This is the fun part. The ones in the middle pull out really easily because there's no stitching there. That's why you don't back smock on this design. So I'm pulling those out. Alright, now that part is puffing. I'm going to need two hands, so I am going to clip these threads and pull these out with tweezers. They don't come out quite as easy because you know, you've got stitching there holding it, so you might have to get your tweezers in there and just pull them out a little bit. But otherwise, I'm sure that part was kind of fun, seeing what it looks like when it's all finished. So the last thing that I have to do is just add the skirt, and this is done. I want to give one tip too about the straps, so that you're not mad at me after adding that lining, because I know that was kind of weird to add that. And it doesn't lay real flat as you're stitching around it. The other thing you can do is you can attach it here, right sides together, and then you can finish the other end of the strap but leave it loose. That would be easier to do your lining, and then it also makes it adjustable because then you'll just stitch a button to the inside of your back bodice and stitch a buttonhole on your strap, and you can button them back there. So that's up to you, whatever you want to do. It does make it adjustable because you can add another button as they get taller. Seems like at least with Ellie, she grows taller before she grows wider, so things can fit her longer if I can just make them adjustable for length. So that would be an easier way to line it, but then you do have to stitch the buttonhole on the strap and the button on the back. So that is it for today. Please share your pictures in the group. I'd like to see how everybody's turns out. Adding the skirt is easy, just like all my other patterns, same techniques that I always use. So no surprises there. I probably won't do a video on that. And we'll finish that up tomorrow. And then we can see everybody's new dresses by the weekend. Thanks for following along. Bye.